Hello everyone, welcome to a very silly Elden Ring challenge. In this challenge, my goal is to just use the Warpick in order to beat the game in the least frustrating manner as possible. Um, the Warpick is a weapon you do have to farm, so I did grab the Warpick. I got some smithing stones from the farming, and I just ran around Limgrave to grab a couple golden seeds and the flask upgrade and the wondrous physic. So to keep the challenges honest, honest in spirit as possible, I'm going to go with the zero upgraded weapon, and we're on our way to the Limgrave tunnels, which is a pretty common first stop for everybody in order to upgrade their weapon. Why I chose the Warpick is that hammers are pretty much not seen in the PvP scene of Elden Ring much at all, but they do have hyper armor, which is a really nice benefit, and they actually do a decent amount of stance and poise damage in um, PvE and PvP respectively, so I thought I'd give it a try. What's unique about the Warpick is that it does pierce damage rather than strike damage, even though I think the weapon description says otherwise. And the damage type is going to become very apparent against these stone dudes. Um, and like I said, I am keeping the challenge in spirit of playing through the game casually, except with the Warpick. So I'm not running around getting like Radigan's sword seal and other stuff just by like running past all of the PvE. So we're going to be fighting stuff and doing things in a relatively natural progression. As you can see, our weapon, um, we have to use it two-handed because it requires 11 strength, but it is really bad against these guys because it's no elemental and it's all strike damage. So I'm making the decision to just run and grab a bunch of smithing stones. And so you don't have to watch me just run. Let's skip ahead to the boss. Alright, so here we are at the boss. I will be honest, this is attempt number 2 because I was playing a lot of DS2 for fun, so I'm a little bit out of practice. And also, as you can see, there's without fire pods, glintstone, and or like spells or anything, and only having pants. This is a little bit more difficult than if you were less restricted in terms of damage sources. But this guy's going to give us a decent amount of runes, so we can actually level up, and he's still not too bad. What's really funny to me is that these guys, how similar their moveset is to the last giant from Dark Souls 2. So normally I feel like pretty darn good fighting the Stone Digger Trolls and other enemies that share like the Stomp moveset. And I'm not like, this isn't a me comment about being like, oh, reusing what we're something that, like, good on them for having a moveset that makes sense and works. I'm just mostly pointing it out for similarity. But yeah, here we go. First boss is down. So again, like, this was mostly a little bit of, we haven't really gotten off of level 1 on the build yet, and we can't even use the weapon one-handed. But like I said, I got the wet blade, I've got a couple golden seeds, and the next thing after we upgrade our weapon is that we are going to go get our set of armor. Now, again, keeping things in spirit of challenge, I have not gone to the round table hold yet because I've just been hanging around Limgrave. I'm going to see whether or not I can beat Margitt and use Margitt to get to the round table hold, even though it's very trivial to like go to Caelid or Liurnia to access the round table hold and get like the +4 and higher weapon availability. So here we are actually going to go murder Bernharl because he has some really nice high poise armor. So forgive a cut because we're going to jump to attempt 2 with the fight. Alright, so here we are at the start of attempt 2, where he automatically aggresses And what's really cool is that the PvP changes from 1.10 apply to these fights with NPCs. Like Bernharl has the hyper armor changes with the using his Y-hander. And why I specifically want the Beast Champion armor, besides that it looks nice, is that it has more than a total of 51 poise for chest piece, legs, and gauntlets. And that threshold is important because that is the average. Like if you poise tank passively standard enemy attacks at that poise level, because in PvE it's still pretty much passive poise. I think there's like some hyper armor in Ash of War hyper armor, but mostly there is like if you're just stand and swing and you want to have it, you don't have to, but having that amount of poise if you're using a slower weapon like hammers or other things, it's really useful to have. And I personally want to have that amount of poise because this is pierce damage that we get a counterattack bonus if the enemy is swinging. Now Bernharl gets the hyper armor defense bonus because he's technically PvP even though it's a computer player, but it's still, I'm doing my best to maximize the damage with what makes this weapon unique. And I think that's the nice thing about these challenge runs is like it's a puzzle piece. And when I'll be honest, what inspired me to do this is Lost was doing a spinning chain only run. I don't have, since I'm not getting paid to do this when I'm making this video and I'm doing this just for fun, I don't want to do something that's that frustrating in terms of potential, in terms of challenge potential. So just saying, like, pretty much any Ash of War is fair game, and that and just having a weapon and being able to, even if it's not common, being able to do my best to delete as much PvE as possible, I think that is a fun thing. And because of fashion, our next stop is going to be the boss fight of Coastal Cave. And here I wish I had my lantern, but I didn't go to Limgrave yet, so I don't have my lantern. I mean, darn it, not Limgrave. Weeping Peninsula, there we go. And yeah, here I just kind of have Storm Stomp on this thing because the original Ash of War is Kick, even though I have it just standard infused because that's the best attack rating right now. Storm Stomp is at least more useful than Kick because these guys don't have shields. I can at least do a little bit of damage, and it is 360 rather than just in one direction. Yeah, I don't think this boss fight shows too much about exactly where, like, the passive... I want to see, like, if there is a good example of that, but I think a lot of the time is me just kind of, like, rolling through it, and despite getting hit, being able to at least continue the attacks, other than some of, like, their big jumping slams. To get through, like, the overwhelm, like, even, like, most of the big attacks, minus, like, grabs and everything, you need, like, full go plus the bull go talisman in order to get to that level of poise. But two-handed heavy attacks with this do a lot of stance damage and also just a lot of stagger, so you can usually get most things, knock most things out of their attacks anyway. And there we go. The demi-human chief's down, and the next boss on our list is our good old friend Tree Sentinel to get us some levels before Margitt. And now that we have our cape and we have Ground Slam as a slightly more damaging Ash of War than Storm Stomp, and also because this guy I don't think he ever gets stunned by Storm Stomp, here we go. Now if you choose like the Vagabond Knight starting class, you can just like fight Tree Sentinel immediately, do pretty well, but having it's nice having the extra armor. And oh yeah, I don't think I actually have the legs of the beast champion stuff yet because I don't have enough runes for the endurance for the full set, but I have a good amount of poison defense. So Tree Sentinel is going to have to do a lot of work, and by that I mean just one good attack because he is a boss in order to do some damage. But I don't think I'm getting one shot by any of this stuff. And yeah, so and despite being and at this point of the challenge, I've knocked a little bit more of the rust off, and I am having a what I feel like is a little bit more of a respectable fight. And again, I want to just like this is, you can absolutely have a much more powerful, gross build than what's going on right now, because I'm just doing natural progression. Because I think you can get up to like 10, 12 healing flasks and like to plus 10 on the flasks without fighting any bosses, based off of just like running and grabbing the medallions and getting up to the plateau and running around. So this is again like natural progression, +3 Warpick, standard area, Ashes of War, and me making it nice and interesting for the end before using my butt to finish off Tree Sentinel and getting enough runes to get a couple more levels before we go fight Margitt. All right, so here we are outside the room for Margitt. There are the stats. I'm level 13. I have the full set of Beast Champion armor, and we're here for round 1. And I know because there are a good amount of, but yeah, like with some of, oh yeah, Margitt's attacks are still plenty damaging and heavy, and I can do decent damage with the Warpick, but it's not. Oh, you see, like with Margitt's tail attack, I think if I was using lighter armor, I would not be able to attack through all of that. Yeah, Margitt is, well, as you know, he's also with Butt Slam. It's very dangerous because of poisoning through so much. Well, yeah, not necessarily the best Ash of War because I don't think you really get any damage reduction from it. So I tried Margitt for a few more attempts, was unsuccessful, and decided to go on a little bit of a natural progression collectathon. So we will jump over to the Weeping Peninsula. All right, our first stop is the church whose name I am not going to attempt to pronounce other than the Baptismal Church. Why coming to Limgrave? So Limgrave, as I keep getting Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula conflated because I kind of think of them as the same area anyway. The enemies are about the same level as like rune-wise and difficulty as in Limgrave, but there are 3 churches where you can get sacred tears. One of them being here at the Baptismal Church, and then there are 2 churches of Marika later further up the peninsula. And apologize for the little spike there, but now we can jump back to the Morn Ramparts and continue our collection of, because I think there's also the easy, there is a really easy golden seed on the other side of the rampart. And one thing that I didn't realize is that Melina also takes us to the round table hold from here. I don't know if I hit a different trigger for it, but this is very useful because now I can upgrade my weapons to plus 4 and higher. However, initially I did not have the smithing stones for it, but this guy has some really useful stuff, so I can sell some of the random runes, and I don't know why I get the pot because I'm not going to be using them for anything really this run, but I can still get them and look at the stone sword key, realizing that it is more expensive than the runes that I have. And then we will be on to our next stop. You know, I think the silence is actually part of the great thing of not having of having to do sometimes with all the crazy manual edit stuff that I have that I'm doing for these ones for fun, because here I am in silence forgetting to realize that the video has started back up from the position that it was, and hopefully won't have N64 Erdtree graphics, as I realized that I have completely forgotten to say why I'm fighting this Erdtree avatar, which is for the Crimson Burst Crimson tier for the regen, even though you're going to see that I forget to use it against Margitt. And of all of the sassy commentary of using my butt to fight a tree that is fighting me with its butt, and all of the hilarity is entirely lost with an awkward silence, as I hesitated to recognize that instead of going for the safe option of getting the sacred tears, I fight a tree. But yeah, there are 2 more sacred tears to grab on the Weeping Peninsula, as well as some smithing stone 2s, and a lantern from the last merchant. And because I have the other regen, I'm going to presently ignore the Blessed Dew talisman, so even though the little bit of regen there is nice, it isn't, and it does stack with the, oh man, it stacks with the Crimson Burst crystal tier, but, yep, you know what, we're gonna go fight Margitt again for, I think this is round 6. Alright, here we are. It's time to go. I've upgraded my weapon. I forgot to, as you can see, I'm going to forget to alter my Wondrous Physic, and I'm just going to go back to Stamp Upward Cut, which I had purchased using Bernharl's Bell Bearing. Still using the standard infusion because it has higher AR than the heavy infusion for the current part of it. Yeah, the current equipment loadout, and I just throw the stats up for half a second, realizing that I have the exact same stats as I did when I fought Margitt the last time. But here we go. We are very casually playing the game with a Warpick. And now with flasks that are much better, And here I think I realized that I didn't put on the regen, and I'm just like, oh well, here we go. At least I have better healing flasks, and I think only one more of them, but I might have nearly full healed from them anyway. But yep. And I think um, all the silliness honestly probably just goes to show that you can make the Warpick pretty decent rather than having, like, I don't know, there are some weapons that it feels like that are things like spinning chain only, using shields on, like, shield melee only. Like, there's plenty of challenges you can do in Elden Ring that are much more obnoxious and hard to execute. But what I think what this shows is given a little bit of patience, a little bit of prep, with the willingness to try a couple times and figure out what strategies you need, that you can turn something as completely unknown in PvP as the Warpick into something that is actually pretty decent. As you can see with hammer good stance damage, we get a second crit riposte on Margitt. And we have one more flask there. Get all of our juice back. And victory with the Warpick. And that is me um, mourning the loss of actually having the proper setup with the Crimson Burst Crystal tier. So I'm excited for this challenge. I hope you're excited for this challenge because I in, have some I have more footage ready that I need to voice over and do recordings for because I want to see this through to completion because I'm having a good time. So hopefully y'all will enjoy this li- short break from PvP for a genuine silly challenge. And hey, I might decide to invade with this build along the way. So hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you are, and I hope to see you in the next part where we're gonna take on Godric and Stormvale Castle, as well as also probably jump into Liurnia. Have a great day, everybody.